All right, so deadlifts. The reason why I'm gonna pair the deadlifts right after the squats is because visually they're very much the same, but kinetically and technically they are quite different. And that can be a real wonky thing for anybody who's learning, and frankly, it's wonky even for a lot of people who have a lot of experience. This was even something that for me, as I became a trainer, I had to go back and study a little bit to really understand the differences between the two. Now, I'm gonna kind of sum it up for you guys, but know that we can always get kind of more into the weeds with it. But I like to keep it as functional and as kind of approachable as possible. So we're gonna do that. So again, if we're learning squats and deadlifts, lowering our body down to the ground, regardless of whether it's a squat or a deadlift, is a critical part of both movements. So you're gonna see, before we get, let me see. I'm gonna model a couple of deadlifts for you guys. Again, this is all body weight stuff right now. We're gonna use one piece of equipment later, but otherwise this is all body weight stuff, including these deadlifts. This is the same form though that you would apply were you adding weights to it, okay? So I'm gonna start from a low point. Now most people are gonna start from standing. I'm gonna start from a low point to illustrate the difference between a squat and a deadlift. So I'm gonna lower myself down. Now this is really more of a squat, lowering myself down the way I just chose to do it. And I'm gonna squat coming back up. Again, if you're squatting, you're pushing down through the ground and pushing our body up, right? Regardless of what movements we're doing, we wanna make sure that our core is engaged. We wanna make sure that we have a nice flat back, and that's how we do it, by engaging our core. It feels kind of like flexing the tummy, but you want to make sure that you're stabilizing the muscles all around, not just in the front. It's worth mentioning that regardless of what movements you're doing, whether they're pushes, pulls, squats, or deadlifts, and well beyond that, we're always engaging our core in order to maintain a flat back. You can see that I'm doing that here. See, as I've gone down, basically what I'm doing is I'm flexing, not just kind of like the front, not just like my tummy, but kind of all of the muscles that a corset would cover. I like to call them the corset muscles. So if you imagine wrapping yourself in a corset, those are the muscles that we want to stabilize in order to maintain that flat back. And notice, even though we're going down and there's a tendency to round the back in this particular case, whether squats or deadlifts, you can see that I've got a nice flat back and nice angles going on, okay? And that booty, sorry, I'm done. But no, the way that you get this nice flat back is by engaging the cores, engaging those corset muscles. And I'll try to make sure that I get that in there again, and I may or may not bring it up in the actual instructional, but do make sure that regardless of what you're doing, that you're always practicing it with a engaged core, so that you have a nice flat back, okay? Unless you're doing an exercise that doesn't use a flat back, in which case you probably are well beyond this video anyway. Yeah, if you're watching this video, you should probably have a flat back. Have a flat back. There's nuance to that statement, especially as people get into more advanced athletics and more advanced resistance training, but that's neither here nor there for this. If you're learning, engage your core, keep that nice flat back. If you notice that you're doing wonky stuff with your back, you're kind of, doing rounding it or coming back up or whatever, especially if you notice that you feel sore in your lower back, whether it's tired or, more sore than that, don't continue to do that. You want to have a nice engaged core, nice flat back, so that you can do these movements safely. Like we were just doing, okay? Now, if I'm doing a deadlift, what I'm gonna do is from that same point, from that low point, instead of pushing down through the ground and pushing my body up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift my butt. And then after I've lifted my butt, I'm gonna hinge at the hips to come up. Now notice my core is engaged. My back is nice and flat. I've got a slight curve, a slight little swoop in my lumbar here. And as I go through it, again, starting from this low point, for the deadlift, we lift the butt, and then we hinge at the hip to come up, okay? Again, just to show you guys, make sure I did it good. Lift the butt, and then come, hinge at the hip. Go. We should do it again without saying it. Okay, from the low point, we lift our butt, and then hinge at the hip to come up, okay? You'll notice that my feet were pretty wide for that. Your feet don't need to be. Again, about shoulder width is the appropriate distance. A little bit outside the shoulders, a little bit inside the shoulders, both are fine, and actually probably good practice to do. But make sure that you're not so wide that it feels wonky or you feel like your knees are not supported, right? If you're feeling like it's a little not stable or it feels like it's a little wonky in your knees, bring your feet a little closer together, bring them parallel, and then you can do the same thing, lift that butt, and then come up, okay? The parallel feet is not necessarily the critical part there. It may be if you have wonkiness in your knee because your feet are not parallel or because they are askew in some way. The important piece here is, how does your knee feel? If there's any kind of discomfort whatsoever, don't be doing it. And if it feels good and it feels fine, that's probably a good sign. And then now notice I'm doing the same thing as I come down. I'm coming down, I'm hinging at the hips, and then lowering my butt, okay? Now this is a conventional deadlift, a conventional body weight deadlift, a conventional body weight deadlift. And I'm gonna show you guys RDLs in a second, which is a little bit easier to master when you're starting out. But I like to show the difference between the squat and the deadlift, the conventional deadlift, because they're so similar in terms of how they look, but they both offer some of the best physiological adaptation value of any exercise, especially considering that everything we do in the world, or most things we do in the world, are all connected through our lower body. You know, we're walking around on our feet, it's attached to our lower body. Our lower body is our point of contact for the world. So we want to make sure that we're strong and flexible and mobile. We're gonna go through this again. I'm gonna do some squats and I'm gonna do some deadlifts. I want you guys to identify which is which, okay? Quiz time. Sorry, I'm done. Okay, you tell me which one is which, okay? Looks like I'm driving down through the ground, which is a clue. Okay, what were those? Now I'm gonna do the other one. I'm hinging at the hip. Which one is that? Notice my core is engaged no matter which one I'm doing. My core is engaged, my back is nice and flat, right? Okay. Can you tell which one was which? Good job. I think good job. I don't know, I didn't really hear you. This is a video, by the way. You did it. Okay, good job. Probably. Now I'm gonna go through both squats. The serious answer is if it feels good, there's no wonkiness, there's no discomfort, then it was good. If there's anything wrong or wonky, you're gonna feel it, especially, and if there's something, you know, a little bit wonky, like maybe you have a rounded back, you're probably not gonna hurt yourself on the first one. After a few, you're gonna feel like your lower back's a little sore. So, you know, just adhere to that, but take care of yourself. And deadlifts. So you can try to identify the difference and mix them up. And squats and deadlifts. But then we'll talk about Romanian deadlifts, RDLs. Okay, so we're gonna mix up squats and deadlifts. I also want you to see that as I mix these two together, that movement doesn't have to be just one thing. In fact, when we're talking about functional movement, a lot of times what we're talking about is multiple muscle systems working together to create movement. So realistically, whether we're talking about squats or deadlifts, all we're really talking about is how are we lowering ourselves down to the ground and back up. Understand the movement and the way your body is supposed to move so you don't hurt yourself. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. That's the whole point. If you can walk away from this video with a deeper and more effective and functional understanding of how your body is supposed to move, we'll consider this a success. Modern fitness industry, in my opinion, tends to teach strategies and behaviors that don't necessarily lead to independence for the client. These tools do. I teach these this way for a reason, because I don't believe that you need me in order to be able to do this stuff. I also don't feel like you need me in order to do this stuff repeatedly in a way that gets you the benefits. And I believe that you guys can do that while staying safe, as long as we don't overcomplicate with and overexert with, excess weight or, poor movement, poor technique. Simple, direct, repetitious, meaning that we repeat these behaviors over and over again. And that is ultimately where some of those more conventional results come from, like losing body fat, gaining muscle. Those really come from nutrition. But we fuel that nutrition with the body movements one way or another, and obviously that will affect the aesthetic of the individual. Not that that matters. Okay. In this context. We're gonna go through squats and deadlifts. You tell me what's what. I say that one was a little fast, so I'm gonna slow it down. And now it's much harder than it was when I just did it fast like that. Okay. Slow and controlled. Speeding up a little bit here, but make sure you stay slow. I'm doing wonky things with my knees, but I'm gonna find some wonky stuff I did on camera. My knees came in a little bit more than I would have liked. it's not super noticeable in the video. You can go back and look, but I could feel it. So there's a good lesson in there, which is as you get better at doing this, you get better at learning how it's supposed to feel. You also get better at learning how it's not supposed to feel and how to avoid wonkiness and discomfort, which you saw me practice there, even though I didn't really break it down in the moment. We'll find out later. Okay. I didn't really mix them up that much. So if you're sitting there and be like, you didn't even mix them up, then you're right. You know what you're doing. I did squats and then I did deadlifts. That's what I got in me. RDLs, or Romanian deadlifts, are the version that basically what it does is it takes out kind of the top part and the bottom part of that movement of the conventional deadlift. Meaning that what you're left with is really just this kind of middle part of the movement where all the focus is on the hamstrings and the glutes. So you don't have to do quite so much. And you can see you can work your hamstrings and your glutes without doing the whole thing. Okay, so these are, again, RDLs, Romanian deadlifts. This is arguably the better place, almost not even arguably, this is in a lot of ways the better place to learn how to do deadlifts without the full conventional range of motion movement, where you're just kind of doing that middle third. This is simpler, this gets the job done. A lot of people will just do Romanian deadlifts, RDLs their whole lives. That's great, that's fine. Don't feel like you need to do the conventional deadlifts. I like to practice them and I like to teach them because you get a fuller range of motion and therefore fuller benefit from both the active stretch and also from a stability, function, safety standpoint as well. Assuming that, again, your body is capable and that works for you. And if you're learning and you find it hard to figure out the conventional deadlift, just do these for now and focus on how it feels in the hamstrings and how it feels in the glutes. Most of the hamstrings though. Well, I don't know, actually that's not true. It could be either. I tend to feel it in the hamstrings, but you might feel it in the glutes. Okay, now If you are interested in lifting weights, grab a couple weights, make sure your shoulder blades are back, core is engaged, back nice and flat. And don't lift too heavy. Make sure you're lifting the appropriate amount. That's for my more advanced folks. If you're learning, don't worry about weight yet, okay? Okay, we're gonna move on.